Well, I know you're far away, and I don't know if you're going to be able to hear everything I'm doing. Hang on, I got to move some stuff around here. I'm going to try to start this old Dixon lawnmower. It's been back here a couple of years. I bought it quite a while back, and it had been sitting in under a lean-to for quite a while, and I did get it to start, but it took quite a bit of work to do it. And since then, I let it sit for quite a while, and then again got it. Well, I'll kind of go through what happened here in a minute. Right now, I'm having trouble getting it to even crank. I just aired the tires up, checked the oil, added a little bit to it, put a little gas in it, but I haven't done anything else, so I put a battery charger on it. And I had the battery unhooked this whole time. It was a new battery a couple of years ago. All right, it'll turn over. Let me get some gas turned on to it. I have no idea if it'll start. Said it's been a while. I'm getting nothing again. Smoker, I don't remember being that bad, but it looks like it's got oil in the exhaust. I know, I don't know what you're looking at. I know it was about half a quart low on oil, and it wasn't like that when I parked it. So my guess is it's got a valve hanging open or something. I mean, it was down a little bit in the back, but it was pretty much was sitting level. I'm gonna turn the gas off too. Like I said, it was half a quart low on oil, and I put just some 530 in it, which probably didn't help. It was something I had. I'm going to change the oil because I don't think I did that. Basically, it is a 1994 Dixon model 3304, 3302. It was a 1 year only. It's a 30-inch cut, 12 horse Briggs on it. It has never idled well. I've always had trouble with the idle. I went through the carburetor and it did not make any difference. It still does not idle well. Matter of fact, it used to not idle at all. You had to have it wide open all the time. And I managed to get it to where you could idle it down some. But as you can see, it didn't like me messing with the throttle at all. Anyway, bottom line, turn the light off back here. I got it from a friend of mine. I got the car trailer from, and a Ford pickup, and a bench grinder, and some other stuff. I got a pretty good deal on all of it. He was going through some rough times, and So I think I paid $50 for this. I think it was $50, but it was underneath the lean-to. It hadn't been started in quite a while. I got it on my trailer, drug it home, and bought a battery for it, checked the oil, that kind of stuff, and it wouldn't do anything. So I started putting my probe to it and found that the ignition switch wasn't doing anything. So I bought a new key switch, put it in. Then I got power from the ignition switch down to the solenoid, but that was as far as it got. So I replaced the solenoid and finally got it to start. Well, I pulled the fuel tank, the bracket back here, the metal bracket, it backed into something and the thing was all twisted around. Got it going, the fuel line had a big hole in it, so I replaced the fuel line. And obviously people park these for a reason. It's not like a Dixon is something that's expendable, like an old Murray or whatever, something you could just throw in the trash. These things still have some value to them, even being only 30-inch. The cone drive is the most common failure point on these that I have found. I have never owned a Dixon besides this one. Dixon is no longer in business. Their patent ran out. They were the only ones that had the cone drive for a long time. When the patent ran out, everybody started making a variable of the cone drive, and then the hydrostatic came out for the zero turn, I believe. Don't get me quote. I really don't know. I've never owned a zero turn. This is the first one. I've had this thing probably 4 years, and have never mowed with it once. Anyway, what I found was when I got it running, it was really, really loud, and I'm not talking about engine loud. It had a really obnoxious sound to it. When that furnace kicks off, it'll be a little quieter here. And good grief, it is smoky. Basically, this is kind of the cone drive system, and this basic setup is the same one they used the entire run, almost regardless of size of mower. I assume the parts got bigger, but basic design I think was this. I had a friend of mine that's got one that's a few years newer, and there are a couple of changes, but not very. I think the emergency brake, which is this, and there's one on the other side. I believe that's there were some differences there, but the basic design is the same. These cones were all the same. Well, when I got this thing, the cones were like $50 a piece, and I didn't buy them because what ended up being wrong was there's a bearing on top right underneath this, and there's a bearing at the bottom of the shaft because there's another one of these cones at the bottom. I'm going to take this all apart, and I'll do a video on that coming apart because I replaced the bearings, and there was an eyelet. I believe it was this one. It actually screws in here, and then this thing threads back and forth. It's part of the adjustment for the cones. And because if you notice, it's one turns one way, the other one turns the other way, and the bottom one, of course, turns the opposite. And that's how you get your forward and backward, is when you move these handles. Let me try moving them with the seat up. When you move the handle, see that whole arm moves, and then it grabs that cone, and then it, because it's twisting this way, will cause it to run forward on the left side. And then, oops, I moved the whole thing. And then this way is the other way around. It pulls it up when I push the handle forward, and it grabs the bottom cone, and that's what makes it go forward. So because this thing spins opposite, you have to do that. When I first put it together, there's some rods there in the front, and again, I'll have to pull this apart to show you what I did, but I accidentally put them in the exact same direction. So when I got it on, the right one had to be all the way to the back, like going backwards, and the left one had to be all the way forward to get the thing to go straight. Well, anyway, there are a few adjustments that you can make on these to make, and I do have the adjustments off. So I don't know if I'm going to mess with the adjustments first, because I talked to a guy who worked for Dixon. He said there's not supposed to be much room between these, but I can see heat cracks. And those cones are pretty shiny, although I'm not feeling anything war smooth out. I'm not sure how they're supposed to feel. I may look at a video or two of these, but a guy gave me a couple of cones, and now those things are like 70 or 75 bucks a piece. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. I may replace them if it looks like it needs it. But what I'm first going to do is make some adjustments, because what I've found is it's real weak on one side compared to the other, and if you go full forward, it pulls one way. you kind of have to have a bit of a knack or know how to adjust these proper. And I think that's why a lot of people are scared of them, is because it's not a technology like we've always had before. But there's nothing to them. When you take this apart, that unit apart, a majority of it's your brakes and the chain to drive. The rest of it, the center section there, that's all it is. It's a center shaft with a bearing top and bottom, and those cones with those two, I hate to say, I don't know what they call those drums or whatever they are, but that's basically all it is. There's very little to them. So to me, it's not that big of a deal. I've got to open this garage. Good grief, I'm about to be asphyxiated here. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. It's been sitting back there for a couple of years. It is going to be in my way because I really would like to get the concrete poured back there. And to do that, I really need stuff out of the way, and this being one of them. There's no sense in me dragging it over the shop or getting a building built back here and then sticking it back there, because it's just going to be in the way there too. And seeing how it's in the garage and here accessible. Oh, and I did air the tires up. I may have not. I think I told you that. I aired the tires up before I moved it. They were all flat, but this front left one, the front ones have tubes, the back ones do not, and they all took air, you know, even after sitting that long. And the battery was probably good. Because like I said, I had it unplugged, but it had been sitting a couple of years, like I said. So anyway, I'm going to get off here in the next video. I'm either going to be making some adjustments, and I'll show you how to do that. I need to change the oil. I didn't sharpen the blade. I had this thing basically complete. The only thing that was left on this thing were the tires and the motor, and I put it all back together, and I didn't sharpen the blade. I mean, I had the deck out and everything. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was really checking it over to see if there was any cracks or anything else that needed work, prior to reinstalling it. And like I said, I'm probably going to start this thing back out, set it outside, and let it burn the oil out of the exhaust and stuff, and see if I can get down. I'm going to change oil in it and stuff. Need to get it hot anyway, just in case there's any water buildup, just moisture, just from sitting. So anyway, this is what we're at, what I'm doing today, and I'll get back on you pretty soon. I don't know if just sitting helped this thing or not, but I've actually got it to idle, and it didn't give me much trouble. Once it warmed up, I actually mowed some of the leaves. And the first time I've ever engaged the blades, it actually worked. Boy, it's sure, like the left side, it's sure real weak. I'm gonna bring it back in. Without dying. Yeah, it's real weak on the one side. You really have to kind of play with it to get it to do anything. So I'm going to make some adjustments on it, but I'm surprised that idle. Yeah, he may have done that a couple of years ago. I'm just not remembering it. That's the problem with letting something sit after you got started on it. You never know how it left off, because I don't remember stuff well. But I know the chains, the actual drive chains themselves need lubricated. They're pretty stuck, so I may put a jack under it and spin it a little bit and try to get the chains lubricated. But like I said, I've got a funny feeling I'm going to have to pull this thing apart anyway, put cones on it. But anyway, we'll get off here. You're probably not going to be able to see near as much as would be handy for you, but I took the seat off, which means I also unplugged the safety, so I'd either have to bypass that to get, to start it up to actually show you. I've got it jacked up, but when this rod moves on the bottom of this, you can see it move. It's got a kind of a dog leg piece. Well, maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. And this one, I mean, I can't give you a number, but here's two washers that are relatively thick, and I can get them just about between there. and you're not supposed to be able to do that. If I'm not mistaken, a guy who worked on these said they've got to be close. And this one here, now mind you, this is backwards on this. I can't even get one washer in there, and I can get almost one in there without even touching this one. I definitely can't want to move it. So this one, and that's the one I'm having trouble with, is way out of adjustment. Now there are a couple of adjustments that do its thing. Actually, as I'm looking at this one is off this way a little bit, and you probably, I'll take you off and see if you can see it, but you may not be able to. Looking straight down at those, and again, I'm terrible at the camera work part of it. I would literally have to get my measurement out to measure between here, and this little area right there where my fingers are at. But this one looks like it's off, kind of at an angle like that, and the adjustment for that is that piece there that I replaced. So you loosen the one nut, and then and then slide that direction, and then that'll move that in a little bit more. So I think I'm going to start with that. Your other adjustment, a little harder to see, but it does the back of it. But you can see this jam nut right here. That then allows that to move one way or the other, and there's one on the opposite side too. And that is the back part that allows that to line up and move a little bit more. But as I can see, just by looking at it, I can definitely see a difference in that. So I think I will start there. I can't remember what size it is. Hey, look at there. So let's see, I need to push it that direction. So I need to loosen this one. And then it moves it quite a bit. I mean, I'm watching this. It doesn't, you wouldn't think it would. So I've really got to watch what I'm doing here, because I may have to adjust the back, because I do remember, oh, I see, I've already, because of my cam nut bottomed out. It's like, why did this quit moving? So a little bit more here. I'm trying to compare one side to the other. I moved it more than what I thought I was going to. But believe it or not, it's getting close to the adjustment on the other side. Let me look at it from the back just to see if it's getting too far in, like whether I have to adjust the back or not. No, it's actually still out just a bit. But it's closer than it was. What you got to be careful of is it's not rubbing one way or the other. There are some springs that you can adjust to help that out. Put pressure on it to make it return back a little bit more. So there are a few adjustments here and there. I've noticed that my slack adjuster on this chain on this side is not moving, and it's composite. I'll have to remove this cover and show you. I need to remove it anyway, because this chain's got some links that aren't really releasing that well. These have springs on them here to help with the idler part of it. You can see possibly this spring has, I can see between the coils, this one's compressed. Well, somebody smashed that down, but I can see marks on that plastic, the idler. That thing has been not been lubricated well over its years. But anyway, I know my arm's probably in the way. Well, it's definitely better than it was. Again, I'll have to bypass that safety switch to get it to start. See if it moves. Because I don't recommend bypassing any safety device. This particular model is actually very difficult to engage the blade compared to like my electric one on my hydrostatic. On my Husqvarna, you just pull the lever, it fires. But if you get off that seat at all, it kills the blade. You know, matter of fact, I think it kills the motor if the blades are engaged. Don't quote me on that. I never tried it really, but I know I lifted up on the seat and boy, it tries to kill everything. Anyway, yeah, to engage this blade, let me move you around here, I'll show you. This is your height adjusters over here. This is the blade engager. This is the emergency brake. This thing actually has to spin all the way around, and when you're sitting in the seat, that is very hard to turn that direction. But so anyway, I'm just showed you that just because you can't even see the emergency brake handle. It's this thing right here. I didn't like what it was doing to that wiring harness over there. Anyway, when the seat was on there, I could hear it crunching the wiring for the. I'm gonna have to reroute that. But anyway, what it does is, like I said, it's got these two bands, and you turn it, you pull up on it, it engages and it locks into position. But anyway. Kind of messing with it. There's multiple adjustments on these for fine tuning, even where the position of the handles are, you know, side each other, so they're not off a little bit there. There's some adjustment there. There's adjustment on the rod, maybe even both ends, to where you can adjust those the rods in case it's off a little bit more that way, you know, one way or the other. And like I said, then there's the adjustments. One of them is that, like I said, they're pretty easy. This one here adjusts the back in and out. It's very easy to work on these. People really panic for no reason when they see something that they've never worked on before, and they really do kind of panic. And it's really, man, to me, it's just like, instead of going, take it to somebody to have work on it, just get into it. I mean, if it's not working, you're not going to mess it up. I've said that before in some of my videos. How could you make it any worse? Take video, take pictures, take, mark everything, tape all the wires with markings on them where it went to, the solenoid, left side, right side, battery terminal, if they happen to be the same color, because some jerk replaced your positive with another positive color, for the negative side. I mean, I've seen that done on cars many times. You get under a car, you put a battery on, it's in the middle of the dark, and you think it'd be real simple, and no, there's two red wires sticking there in your hand. It's like, what am I supposed to do now? And people don't like to do stuff right, and that's really, really aggravating when they do that, but it is life. That is how you have to do it. Anyway, I am going to get a bypass wire and put on there. I'm going to try to fire this up and see if it made any difference. I may even put the seat back on. What I'm really looking for is, if I don't have to replace the cones, I'm not going to. I got a friend who really needs a set of cones, but I really hate getting rid of them because, like I said, they're kind of expensive. And being a friend, you kind of hate charging somebody for something like that. But because they were given to me for free, so it's kind of like I don't want to be that jerk, because he's a good friend of mine. But I really don't know what I'm going to do yet, because these still may need to be replaced. What I'm trying to do is get this thing running, either give it to my mother-in-law so that she can use it at her house some, or I'm going to try to get some money out of it. It's probably worth, what, $350, $550, somewhere in that range, when it's running proper. It is a Dixon. I know, to me, it's not worth that much, but to other people, I am surprised at the cult following on these. But, I feel that way with that old Envoy push mower, that old brick top that I've got over there, that I started doing a video on in the spring, and boy, it failed on me pretty bad. So I'm going to have to order a bunch of parts this winter. In the spring, I'll have that lawn boy up. But anyway, I enjoy working on anything mechanical, anything new, anything different. And obviously, this is different. This is something you don't see every day. And I am not a Dixon mechanic. I know very, very little about them except hands-on. The only thing I did was when I found out what was wrong with it, I actually took pictures, because at the time I didn't have video camera. I still had a flip phone until a couple of years ago. And so when I took this thing apart 4 or 5 years ago, I actually took some pictures of it with an actual digital camera. Yeah, I know, it's been a while back. And took it all apart. I just took one side apart because this eyelet, like I said, needed replaced. It was actually snapped flush right there. And so I took just this side apart because I knew that these bearings were bad. There happens to be a place in town that had those bearings in stock and that eyelet. I was surprised, but that goes to show you though that this particular cone unit works on many different years, not just this particular one, because those parts must all been about the same because they had them in stock. Which I'm talking a town of 10,000 people that barely has a restaurant to eat in. So, you know, to actually have a place that had these, that was kind of remarkable to me. And they got me a little bit on price because they know what you got, but that's how it works. But anyway, all right, I'm going to mess with this a little bit more. Matter of fact, I am pulling this back all the way, and I am just about out of adjustment. Where, I mean, I can feel this. I can't even pull this all the way back. Like I can't pull that one, but I can pull this one all the way to the back. So I may have to make an adjustment on that rod down there just to, you know, help to pull this one all the way back. You don't have to pull this one all the way back. It may throw it off. What you really want in the end, the adjustments to be when you push that thing all the way forward. You both of them maxed out and forward. You want the thing to track straight. You don't want it to pull. This thing's pulling really, really bad to the right. And that's why I knew that I had a problem with the left. Besides that, this thing was real slow at reacting, and sometimes wouldn't even really engage like you anticipated it was going to engage. Matter of fact, the thing is actually kind of scary to drive because it was it kind of did what it wanted to do, not what you wanted to do. But again, I know I've never owned or drove a zero turn. This is what you saw out there was probably only my third or fourth time I've ever driving one, and this was the one I've driven every time, and it's never been right. So. Anyway, I'm going to get off here instead of boring you.